The alarm clock rings not just once, but again and again, because the first sound was drowned out by exhaustion. A hand reaches out, fumbling to silence it, while the mind is already racing ahead. Before the eyes even open fully, there is the sudden glow of a phone screen. Notifications light up in quick succession. Work emails that came overnight, headlines filled with disaster and conflict, a text from a boss, a reminder of bills due soon. The day has barely begun, yet it already feels heavy. Many Americans and people around the world live this exact scene every morning. The body is still half asleep, but the mind is already on the treadmill of demands. The heart pounds faster, not because of exercise, but because of the unseen weight of responsibility. Traffic becomes the next battlefield. Cars line up in endless rows, horns echo impatiently. Drivers grip the wheel tightly, as if they could somehow control the flow of 1,000 other lives. A mother tries to calm a crying child in the backseat while her coffee spills on her lap. A man yells at another driver for cutting in, though both will arrive late regardless. Stress is no longer an occasional visitor. It has become the air we breathe. At work, it continues. Desks are covered with sticky notes and schedules. The computer screen is split into multiple windows, each one demanding attention at the same time. A meeting runs longer than expected. Another begins immediately after. Lunch is eaten at the desk, if eaten at all. The hours blur together until suddenly the sun has disappeared, but the work has not. And when the work finally stops, the mind does not. At home, the phone is still in hand, scrolling through news, messages, and endless streams of distraction. Sleep comes late, restless, and shallow. This cycle repeats itself day after day, and though technology was supposed to make life easier, somehow it has made us busier. We live with calendars full of tasks, yet with hearts that feel strangely empty. We accomplish more, but feel less satisfied. Why? Because we are caught in a restless current, always moving, never arriving. The American dream promised freedom, but for many, it feels like another form of prison, the prison of speed, the prison of stress. And inside this prison, we forget how to breathe. Pause here for a moment. Just imagine, what happens to the body when the breath is shallow? The chest tightens, the shoulders rise, the nervous system signals danger even when no real threat is present. Stress is not only mental. It lives in the body, shaping our health, our moods, our decisions. People feel trapped, but rarely stop to ask, trapped by what? It is not only bills or bosses or deadlines. The deeper trap is the belief that we must always be rushing, always producing, always doing more to prove our worth. This silent demand whispers, you are not enough unless you achieve, unless you keep moving. Yet there is another whisper, often drowned out by the noise. It is the whisper of stillness. Ancient wisdom tells us that peace is not something we must chase after. It is already present, like the clear sky hidden behind clouds. The Buddha once spoke about the power of stopping. Not stopping as in quitting life, but stopping as in pausing long enough to see reality clearly. Imagine a glass of muddy water. If it is shaken constantly, the water stays cloudy. But if the glass is set down, the mud settles and the water becomes clear. Our minds are the same. Constant movement keeps everything blurry. But if we stop, even for a breath, clarity returns. Think about the last time you allowed yourself to truly pause. Not scrolling, not checking messages, not filling silence with noise, but simply sitting and breathing. For many, it is hard to recall such a moment. Yet that simple act can change everything. In Buddhist practice, this is called mindfulness, the art of being fully here. It does not require special robes or rituals. It begins with something as ordinary as noticing your breath, the rise and fall of your chest, the coolness of air entering your nose, the warmth of air leaving. In that moment, stress loses its grip. Picture a worker who takes 3 mindful breaths before entering a meeting. For a short while, the racing thoughts slow down. The body relaxes, the mind clears, and suddenly, problems seem less overwhelming. Picture a mother, overwhelmed with chores, who pauses to breathe with her child. In those 3 breaths, connection replaces chaos. This is not magic, but it feels magical because we have forgotten what it means to be present. Stress tells us, you must do everything right now. Mindfulness answers, you only need to be here now. Stress pulls us into the future with fear of what might happen. Mindfulness brings us back to the present, where life is actually lived. The future does not exist yet. The past is already gone. Only this breath is real, but many people resist. They say, I don't have time to breathe. Isn't that strange? Breathing happens every moment, yet we treat it as a luxury. We believe peace will come later, after the project is done, after the bills are paid, after retirement. But later never arrives, because the mind always invents another condition. Peace is not postponed. Peace is available now, in the middle of traffic, in the middle of chaos, in the middle of stress. Imagine this: a man running on a treadmill. He runs and runs, but the scenery never changes. He is exhausted, yet he feels he cannot stop, because stopping means failure. This is modern life. But the truth is, he can step off the treadmill at any time. The world will still move, but he will no longer be trapped by its speed. In the same way, mindfulness is the invitation to step off, even if just for a moment. When we stop, even briefly, we discover something radical. Life is not against us. Life is simply unfolding. Stress arises not from events themselves, but from our resistance to them, from our endless pushing and pulling. The Buddha compared this to carrying 2 arrows. The first arrow is the event itself: pain, disappointment, difficulty. The second arrow is our reaction, the stories we tell, the fears we add, the resistance we cling to. The first arrow may be unavoidable, but the second arrow is optional. By learning to stop, we put down the second arrow. Think again of that morning alarm, that flood of notifications, that traffic jam. These things may still happen. Mindfulness does not erase them, but it changes how we meet them. Instead of drowning, we learn to float. Instead of reacting blindly, we respond wisely. And each time we pause, each time we breathe, we are training ourselves in a new way of living, one that is not ruled by stress, but guided by awareness. Think of the subway at rush hour. Bodies pressed together, headphones in, eyes glued to screens, hearts beating in quiet desperation. Everyone is moving, yet no one feels truly alive. People spend hours commuting, hours working, hours trying to manage a life that feels like it is running away from them. In the quiet moments, a question whispers, is this all there is? Stress is not just a personal problem. It has become a culture of speed, of exhaustion, of constant distraction. We measure success by how busy we are. If the calendar is full, we feel important. If the inbox is overflowing, we feel needed. But beneath that surface, there is fatigue, emptiness, and longing. This is the first great suffering of modern life, the suffering of busyness. The Buddha described it in another way long ago as the restless mind that never settles, the monkey mind jumping from branch to branch, thought to thought. The monkey mind existed thousands of years ago, but today it has been supercharged by technology. Notifications, advertisements, news cycles, all keep the monkey restless, never satisfied. When the mind is restless, the heart cannot rest. But what if, instead of fighting this culture, we step aside? Imagine being in that subway car, but instead of staring at your phone, you close your eyes and take a conscious breath. You hear the sounds around you, the hum of the train, the murmur of voices, the rhythm of wheels on tracks. You notice the rise and fall of your chest. For just a moment, you are not part of the restless crowd. You are simply present. The stress is still around you, but inside there is space. This is the beginning of freedom, not a dramatic escape, but a subtle shift. Stress thrives on one illusion, the illusion that we can control everything. We believe if we manage time better, buy the right tools, or organize perfectly, the stress will disappear. Yet it never does, because life is not fully controllable. A Buddhist teaching on impermanence points directly to this truth. Everything changes. Deadlines shift, traffic appears, plans fall apart. If peace depends on control, peace will always be fragile. True peace must be found in the middle of change, not in the absence of it. Consider the image of a storm. The wind howls, the trees bend, the rain pours down. If we stand outside, unprotected, we are battered and afraid. But deep inside the storm, at its very center, there is a still point, the eye of the storm. Calm, unmoving, untouched. In the same way, the mind can discover its own eye of stillness. The world may storm around us, but awareness remains steady. This is not philosophy. It is an experience anyone can touch. Close your eyes, breathe, and notice that behind the noise of thought, there is always a quiet watcher. That watcher is not stressed, not rushing, not overwhelmed. It simply sees. One story tells of a monk who was asked how he remained peaceful even when surrounded by chaos. He answered, "I am like a bell. People may strike me, but I decide whether to ring." Stress is the automatic ringing. Awareness is the choice not to. When we practice mindfulness, we are training this choice. We are training the bell to remain still. Let us ground this in ordinary life. A man comes home from work, exhausted, shoulders heavy, head aching. His child runs to him, eager to play, but the man, lost in stress, pushes the child away. Later, guilt arises. This scene repeats day after day until the relationship weakens. But imagine one small shift. Before opening the door, the man takes 3 mindful breaths. He sets down the heavy bag of stress, even if just for a moment. He enters with more presence. His child feels it. Connection replaces distance. The stress of work is still there, but it no longer rules his heart. This is mindfulness at work, not escape, but transformation. In Buddhism, there is a teaching called right effort. It does not mean working harder or faster. It means using energy wisely. Stress drains energy because it scatters the mind. Mindfulness gathers energy because it focuses the mind. Like sunlight through a magnifying glass, focused attention has power. When we bring full attention to a single breath, a single step, a single task, we discover clarity. Stress says, do everything at once. Mindfulness says, do this one thing fully. Science now echoes what ancient wisdom taught. Research shows that mindfulness reduces blood pressure, lowers anxiety, improves sleep, and strengthens the immune system. But beyond science, there is a deeper truth. Mindfulness heals the spirit. It reminds us that life is not something to survive, but something to live. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly tasted your food, heard the sound of rain, or felt the texture of your own breath? Stress robs us of life's simple joys. Mindfulness gives them back. Imagine eating an apple. Normally, we eat while thinking of something else. The apple disappears, but we hardly notice. Now imagine eating that same apple slowly, noticing the color, the crisp sound of the bite, the sweetness filling the mouth. In that moment, the apple is no longer ordinary. It is a miracle. Stress cannot coexist with gratitude. When we are present, gratitude naturally arises, and gratitude is the antidote to stress. The Buddha often compared life to crossing a river. Stress is like thrashing in the water, trying to reach the other side faster, but only sinking deeper. Mindfulness is like floating relaxed, aware, moving with the current instead of against it. We still cross, but with ease instead of panic. The river has not changed. Only our way of moving has. The truth is, stress will always exist in some form. The world will never be perfectly calm, but we have a choice in how we meet it. We can meet it with resistance, fear, and exhaustion, or we can meet it with awareness, acceptance, and calm. The Buddha did not promise a life without difficulty. He promised a path to meet difficulty without suffering. And the first step on that path is simply to stop, to breathe, to be here. So let us return to that alarm clock, that flood of notifications, that morning rush. Tomorrow, when the phone lights up, perhaps you take one mindful breath before looking. In traffic, perhaps you relax your grip on the wheel and notice the sky. At work, perhaps you pause before replying and feel your breath steady. These small moments are not small at all. They are the beginnings of freedom. Stress tells us life is a race. But life is not a race. It is a journey. Each step can be heavy with tension or light with awareness. The choice is ours, moment by moment. And as we learn to walk with awareness, we begin to discover that beneath the chaos of modern life, there is a quiet path leading home. It begins with a stack of bills on the kitchen table. The electricity bill, the credit card bill, the health insurance statement. Each envelope feels heavier than paper should. A man sits down after a long day of work, opens one bill, then another, his heart sinking as the numbers add up. His paycheck came only a few days ago, but already most of it is gone. Rent, groceries, car payment, student loans. He calculates what remains, and it is barely enough. Tomorrow, he will go to work again, hoping for overtime, hoping for a promotion, hoping to keep up. This is a scene repeated across countless homes. In America, the land of opportunity, many live with constant financial anxiety. People work longer hours than ever, yet feel less secure. Technology has advanced, luxuries are available, but peace of mind is missing. The chase for money is endless, because no matter how much we have, it never feels like enough. There is always another bill, another responsibility, another comparison with neighbors who seem to be doing better. Advertisements fuel this fire. On every screen, we are told happiness can be bought: new cars, bigger houses, the latest phones, vacations that promise escape. The message is clear: you are not enough unless you own more. And so, people chase. They work 2 jobs, skip family dinners, sacrifice rest. They buy on credit, fall into debt, and keep running faster, believing that just a little more money will finally bring peace. But peace never comes that way, because desire grows faster than income. The Buddha called this the suffering of craving. He compared it to drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Modern life has perfected this trap. Even those who are financially comfortable often feel poor inside because they measure themselves against endless desires. A family may live in a nice house, drive reliable cars, have enough savings, yet still feel anxious. What if something happens? What if I lose my job? What if we cannot afford college for the children? Fear makes the heart restless. Consider the story of a woman who worked tirelessly for 30 years, saving for retirement. She dreamed of freedom, traveling, relaxing, enjoying her later years. But when she finally retired, her health was fragile, her energy gone. The dream of security had stolen her present joy. She had postponed living until it was too late. This is the tragedy of chasing security. In trying to guarantee the future, we miss the only time we truly have the present. But the Buddha offered a different way. He spoke of santuthi, the joy of contentment. Contentment is not resignation. It is freedom. It does not mean refusing to work or abandoning responsibility. It means shifting the measure of wealth. Instead of asking, "How much do I have?" contentment asks, "Do I appreciate what is here?" A person with little, who is grateful, is wealthier than a person with much, who is never satisfied. Picture two neighbors. One has a modest apartment, a simple car, and enjoys evening walks with family. The other has a large house, expensive car, but is always stressed, working late, rarely home. Who is truly rich? The one who enjoys what they have. The other is enslaved by possessions. Real wealth is not about numbers in a bank account. It is about freedom from endless craving. This teaching does not mean we ignore bills or pretend money is unimportant. Food, shelter, medicine all require money. The Buddha himself advised monks to handle resources wisely, never wastefully. But he warned against the illusion that money alone brings happiness. Happiness comes from balance, generosity, and understanding our interdependence with others. Think of generosity for a moment. In a world driven by scarcity, generosity seems risky. If I give, I will have less. But in the Buddha's teaching, generosity is not loss. It is expansion. When we share, even a little, our heart grows lighter. The grip of fear loosens. Imagine giving a small meal to someone hungry. For them, it is nourishment. For us, it is liberation from the prison of mind. True security is not in hoarding, but in connecting. When communities support one another, fear decreases. When families share instead of compete, joy increases. One powerful image is the hand. A closed fist holds tightly, but cannot receive. An open hand both gives and receives freely. Stress around money is the tight fist. Contentment and generosity are the open hand. Which one feels lighter? Stories from Buddhist tradition tell of kings and wealthy merchants who found no peace until they practiced generosity. One king, though rich, feared losing his power. He was restless, suspicious, always protecting what he had. Another man, poor in possessions but rich in kindness, ate freely. Though he owned little, he slept peacefully. Which life would you choose? Modern psychology supports this ancient wisdom. Studies show that people who practice generosity report higher happiness, less depression, stronger relationships. Giving rewires the brain toward joy. Contentment calms the nervous system. Together, they release us from the endless chase. Still, people often resist. They say, "I will give when I have enough." But enough never arrives. The secret is to start small. Give a smile, a kind word, a little time, a small gift. Notice how it feels. Each act of generosity is a step out of fear, a step into freedom. Asterisk, the deeper truth is this: money can never guarantee safety because life is uncertain. Accidents happen, markets crash, health changes. The only real security is inner stability. When the heart is content, when the mind is at peace, no external loss can destroy us. This is why the Buddha pointed not to wealth, but to wisdom as the highest treasure. Wisdom sees that everything is connected, that clinging creates suffering, that freedom is found in letting go. Imagine again that man at his kitchen table, surrounded by bills. His situation is real, and mindfulness will not erase it. But if he pauses, breathes, and remembers that his worth is not measured by money, something shifts. He pays what he can, seeks solutions where possible, but without collapsing under fear. Perhaps he shares his worries with a friend, receives support, and feels less alone. Perhaps he donates a few coins to someone in need and feels strangely richer. In small ways, his relationship with money begins to transform. The world outside may not change overnight, but inside, the grip of money loosens. And in that loosening, there is freedom. Imagine walking into a shopping mall on a Saturday afternoon. The lights are bright, the music upbeat, the air filled with the smell of food courts and perfume counters. Everywhere, signs shout, "Sale. Limited time only. Buy one, get one free." People rush from store to store, carrying bags, swiping credit cards, filling carts with things they did not know they needed until the moment they saw them. There is excitement, yes, but also something else: anxiety, pressure, a hunger that never ends. As soon as one item is bought, the desire shifts to another dot. This is not just shopping. It is the modern ritual of chasing happiness through consumption. And yet, after the bags are emptied, the thrill fades. The new phone becomes old within months. The new clothes lose their charm. The car payment becomes a burden. What remains is the cycle of craving, the treadmill of desire. People run faster and faster, believing joy is just one purchase away. But the finish line always moves. The Buddha described this cycle with a simple truth: craving leads to suffering. Not because things are evil, but because the attachment to them is endless. When we grasp at security through possessions, we are like someone trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter we squeeze, the more slips away. Consider a family who buys a larger house because the smaller one feels inadequate. At first, there is pride, excitement, a sense of success. But soon, the mortgage payments grow heavy, maintenance costs rise, and stress increases. What was meant to bring happiness now brings worry. In contrast, another family stays in their modest home, makes it warm with love and laughter, and feels at peace. The difference is not in square footage, but in perspective. This is why the Buddha pointed to contentment as the highest wealth. He once said that even a king with great riches is not as free as a monk with little, if the king's heart is enslaved by desire. Freedom does not come from ownership. It comes from knowing what is enough. But many people fear this idea. They hear contentment and think it means giving up, losing ambition, staying poor. That is not the teaching. Contentment does not mean refusing to improve life or denying the need for effort. It means shifting the foundation of happiness from external accumulation to internal peace. Ambition rooted in greed burns us out. Ambition rooted in wisdom uplifts us. The difference lies in whether we are running toward joy or running away from fear. Fear of not having enough drives much of modern anxiety. Fear of losing the job, fear of medical bills, fear of economic collapse. This fear is real, but often exaggerated by the mind. The Buddha taught that clinging to security in an insecure world only multiplies fear. Real security is not in possessions, but in resilience, in the ability to face change without collapsing. Like bamboo in the wind, the mind that bends does not break. There is a story of a farmer whose only horse ran away. The neighbors said, "How unlucky." The farmer replied, "Maybe." Days later, the horse returned with 2 wild horses. And neighbors said, "How fortunate." The farmer replied, "Maybe." Later, the farmer's son broke his leg while trying to tame one of the wild horses. The neighbors said, "How unlucky." The farmer again replied, "Maybe." Soon after, soldiers came to draft young men into war, but the injured son was spared. And neighbors exclaimed, "How fortunate." The farmer replied, "Maybe." This story reminds us, life cannot be controlled, but it can be met with equanimity. Rich or poor, gain or loss, the deeper wealth is in a steady heart. Now, imagine another scene. A man donates a small sum to help a neighbor with groceries. At first, he worries, what if I need that money later? But when he sees the relief in the neighbor's eyes, he feels something unexpected, joy. That joy lingers longer than the fear. It becomes a kind of wealth that cannot be stolen or lost. Generosity transforms money from a source of anxiety into a source of connection. This is why in Buddhist tradition, Generosity is considered the first perfection, the first step on the path of awakening. Not because the Buddha wanted people to live without resources, but because he understood that letting go frees the heart. Each act of generosity loosens the chain of greed. Each moment of contentment weakens the grip of fear. Together, they build a new kind of security, the security of inner abundance. Even in modern America, this wisdom applies. Think of communities where neighbors share tools instead of each buying their own. Think of food banks where volunteers give time to support strangers. Think of families who choose to live simply, not out of deprivation, but out of clarity. These are not acts of loss, they are acts of freedom. So, how do we begin to step out of the endless chase? The first step is awareness. Notice when craving arises. Notice the thought, if I buy this, I will feel better. Do not fight it or judge it, just see it clearly. Awareness itself is powerful. The second step is gratitude. Each day, pause to name 3 things you already have that bring you joy. The roof above you, the meal before you, the voice of a loved one. Gratitude shifts the focus from lack to abundance. The third step is generosity. Give something, no matter how small, and watch how it lightens the heart. Over time, these steps create a new rhythm of life. Instead of running faster on the treadmill of desire, we step off. Instead of grasping with fear, we open with trust. Money becomes a tool, not a master. Security is found not in numbers, but in wisdom. Let us return once more to that man at his kitchen table surrounded by bills. In the past, he felt crushed, defined by numbers. But now, he practices differently. He breathes. He remembers that worth is not in wealth. He pays what he can with a steady heart, asks for help when needed, and offers help when able. Slowly, he discovers that even in financial struggle, peace is possible. His circumstances may not be perfect, but his spirit is no longer enslaved. That is the true freedom the Buddha pointed toward. And so, the question is not, how much money do I need to be happy? The real question is, how much fear am I willing to release? When fear fades, even a little, the heart feels light. And in that lightness, life becomes rich, no matter the balance in the bank. Picture a busy cafe in the heart of New York City. Every table is filled, every seat taken, yet silence dominates. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of glowing screens. Couples sit across from each other, eyes fixed on their phones. Friends gather in groups, but their laughter is half-hearted, distracted by the constant buzzing of notifications. A young man scrolls through social media, seeing pictures of others smiling, traveling, celebrating. Instead of feeling connected, he feels strangely left out, as if life is happening elsewhere. Loneliness in the middle of a crowd. This paradox defines much of modern life. We live closer together than ever in cities, connected across continents by technology, yet feelings of isolation are rising. Studies show that despite thousands of online friends, many people cannot name a single person they truly trust. A neighbor's door remains closed. Coworkers exchange polite words but not real feelings. Families sit together but drift apart emotionally. Loneliness has become an epidemic, as dangerous to health as smoking or obesity, but harder to see because it hides behind busy schedules and smiling photos at night. This loneliness deepens. A man comes home after work, drops his bag, turns on the television for background noise, and eats dinner alone. He scrolls through endless posts online, searching for something to fill the silence. Hours pass, but the emptiness remains. Or imagine a woman lying in bed beside her partner, both staring at their separate screens, both in different digital worlds. They share a space, but not a presence. Loneliness within intimacy is perhaps the most painful of all, because it whispers that even love is not enough. The Buddha described this suffering as the illusion of separation. Though life is deeply interconnected, we forget. We imagine ourselves as small, separate cells, fighting alone for survival, and this illusion creates a wall between us. We crave connection, but the wall keeps us apart. Modern life reinforces this wall with competition, comparison, and distraction. The more we try to prove our worth, the more isolated we feel. Think of labels we wear: the successful one, the smart one, the strong one. These roles create distance. A man may be admired at work, but secretly feels unseen. A woman may fulfill her duties as mother, wife, professional, but inside longs for someone to simply ask, "How are you, really?" We show polished versions of ourselves to the world while hiding our raw human selves. The result is connection without depth, presence without intimacy. Yet deep down, everyone shares the same longing: to be known, to be loved, to feel that they matter. The Buddha's teaching of compassion begins exactly here, with the recognition that beneath all roles and appearances, every being wants the same thing: to be free from suffering, to be happy. When we see this truth, barriers begin to dissolve. Imagine two strangers sitting side by side on a bus. Normally, they avoid eye contact, lost in separate worlds. But then, one notices the other, looks tired, and offers a gentle smile. For a brief moment, the wall softens. Humanity shines through. This simple act does not solve loneliness entirely, but it plants a seed. Compassion begins with such small gestures: eye contact, listening, kindness. The Buddha often compared compassion to a mother's love for her child. A mother does not calculate how much to give. Her heart flows naturally toward her child's well-being. In the same way, when we open to compassion, we begin to see others not as strangers or competitors, but as fellow travelers in the same struggle. This shift transforms loneliness into connection. Instead of waiting to be loved, we begin to love. Instead of waiting to be seen, we begin to see. Consider the story of a young professional overwhelmed by isolation despite constant networking events. One day, she decided to try something different. Instead of entering a room wondering, "Who will like me? Who will accept me?" she asked, "How can I make someone feel seen today?" She listened more than she spoke. She complimented sincerely. She remembered small details about others' lives. Slowly, connections deepened. Her loneliness lessened, not because others changed, but because she shifted from seeking to giving. This is the power of compassion. It heals both the receiver and the giver. Still, many resist. They fear opening the heart will lead to disappointment or rejection. And yes, vulnerability carries risk. But what is the greater risk? To remain safe behind walls, yet starve of connection? Or to open, risk pain, but also discover love? The Buddha encouraged courageous compassion, the willingness to open even when uncertain, because the alternative is endless isolation. Mindfulness supports this opening. When we are mindful, we notice others more fully. We hear the tremble in a friend's voice, the weariness in a coworker's eyes, the longing in a child's silence. We respond not with distraction, but with presence. Presence is the antidote to loneliness. To be fully here with another person is to say without words, "You matter. I see you. You are not alone." Imagine sitting with a friend who is grieving. There may be nothing you can say to fix it, but your silent presence, your hand on theirs, your willingness to stay, can mean everything. In that moment, loneliness dissolves, not because pain disappears, but because it is shared. This is the invitation of compassion in modern life. To break the illusion of separation, to remember that we belong to one another. Each smile, each listening ear, each act of kindness is a thread that weaves us back together. And when we weave enough threads, the fabric of community becomes strong again. So, next time you're in that cafe, surrounded by screens, perhaps you lift your eyes, meet someone's gaze, and offer a smile. Small, yes, but not meaningless. The journey from loneliness to connection begins with such small, mindful acts. Think of the sound of a city at night. Sirens in the distance, footsteps echoing on empty sidewalks, the glow of apartment windows stacked like boxes. Inside each box, a life unfolds, some joyful, some broken, some quietly aching. So many people, so close together, yet each one locked in their private world. This is the strange loneliness of modern times. Together, but separate. Loneliness is not just the absence of company. It is the absence of being seen. You can be surrounded by friends, coworkers, even family, and still feel invisible if no one truly understands you. The Buddha spoke of this as the suffering of disconnection, the deep hunger of the heart for recognition. Humans are not built only to survive. We are built to belong. And when belonging is missing, suffering follows. Social media pretends to fill this gap. A like, a comment, a digital heart, it feels like connection, but often leaves us emptier. It is like eating candy when the body needs nourishment. Sweet for a moment, but unsatisfying. Real connection requires presence. Not scrolling, not multitasking, but attention. And attention is rare in a world where everyone is distracted. That is why mindfulness becomes an act of love. To give your full attention is to say, you matter more than my phone, more than my thoughts, more than my to-do list. The Buddha taught practices to heal loneliness, the most famous being metta, or loving kindness. Metta begins quietly, often in meditation, with simple phrases repeated in the mind. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. At first, it may feel awkward, even artificial, but slowly the heart softens. Then the phrases extend outward. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. First to a loved one, then to a friend, then to a neutral person, even to a difficult person, until finally to all beings. The practice may seem small, just words whispered in the mind, yet it reshapes how we see the world. Strangers become less threatening, enemies less rigid, ourselves less lonely. Imagine practicing metta on the subway, silently repeating these wishes while looking at the faces around you. No one else knows, but your heart changes. The walls soften, the sense of separation dissolves. You realize that every face you see, tired, angry, joyful, anxious, is just like you, longing for happiness, trying to escape suffering. Compassion rises naturally. Loneliness fades because you feel connected, not by words, but by shared humanity. There is a story of the Buddha meeting a man who was bitter and hostile. Instead of responding with anger, the Buddha radiated compassion. The man's hatred could not find a place to land, and eventually it dissolved. This story shows us compassion is not only for those who are kind. It is most powerful when offered to those who are difficult, because it breaks the cycle of separation. Even if the other does not change, our own heart is freed. Now imagine a woman sitting alone in her apartment, overwhelmed by loneliness. She closes her eyes and begins the metta practice. At first, her mind resists. The words feel empty, but she persists. Slowly, warmth spreads in her chest. She remembers a friend's smile, a kind teacher, even the face of a stranger who once held the door for her. Gratitude mixes with love. By the end of the practice, she is still alone physically, but she no longer feels abandoned. Her heart is connected. This is the quiet power of loving kindness. It transforms loneliness from the inside out. Of course, practice must also move into action. Compassion is not only a meditation, but a way of living. Listening deeply when someone speaks, offering help without waiting to be asked, sharing time, attention, presence. These actions weave bonds that no amount of scrolling can replace. A neighbor visited, a meal shared, a phone call made without agenda. Such small acts can save a life drowning in loneliness. The Buddha also taught the value of community, or Sangha. To walk the path alone is hard. To walk with others is nourishing. Community does not need to be large. Even 2 or 3 people meeting regularly, supporting each other in kindness, can create a powerful antidote to isolation. Imagine a small group gathering once a week, not to compete or gossip, but simply to sit in silence, breathe, share honestly. Over time, trust grows, hearts open, and loneliness lessens. We remember that we do not have to carry life alone. There is another teaching. When we focus too much on our own loneliness, the feeling intensifies. But when we shift attention outward, caring for others, the burden lightens. Service, kindness, volunteering, these are medicines for isolation. By easing someone else's suffering, we ease our own. A lonely man who begins visiting a nursing home to read to the elderly discovers that his own heart grows full. A woman who struggles with emptiness begins mentoring a child and finds joy in the child's laughter. In giving connection, we receive it. The deepest healing comes when we realize that loneliness is partly an illusion. The sense of being separate is created by the mind. In reality, every breath connects us with trees, oceans, and all beings. Every bite of food connects us with farmers, sun, rain, soil. Every word we speak depends on countless teachers before us. We are already woven into life's great net. Loneliness comes from forgetting this truth. Mindfulness and compassion help us remember that, so when you feel lonely, pause. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe. Whisper, I belong. I am connected. I am not alone. Then extend that wish outward. May all beings feel connected. May all beings feel love. Slowly, gently, the walls inside begin to crumble. The journey from loneliness to connection does not happen overnight. It is built breath by breath, act by act. But each time we choose compassion over indifference, presence over distraction, giving over grasping, we move closer to a life of true belonging. And perhaps one day, in that same busy cafe, someone looks up from their phone, catches your eye, and smiles. You smile back. 2 humans, no longer strangers. Connection begins. Think of the morning ritual before leaving the house. A man ties his tie, straightens his jacket, checks his reflection. A woman chooses her outfit carefully, applies makeup, practices the right smile. Students put on backpacks heavy with books, workers carry laptops, parents prepare lunches for children. Each one prepares not only their body, but their role. By the time they step outside, they are no longer simply themselves. They are employees, managers, students, parents, caregivers. Society greets them not as humans, but as functions. At first, these roles may feel natural, even empowering. To be called doctor or manager brings pride. To be mother or father brings belonging. But over time, these roles can harden into cages. A doctor who is secretly depressed feels she cannot admit weakness because doctors are supposed to heal others, not struggle themselves. The manager who longs for rest keeps pushing because managers must always appear strong. The parent who feels lost cannot confess it because parents are supposed to know what to do. And so, behind polished masks, real human hearts suffer unseen. This is the tyranny of identity. We begin to confuse the costume with the person, the label with the life. The Buddha warned of this illusion, that clinging to self-identity creates suffering. He taught the principle of anatta no fixed self. It does not mean we do not exist. but that we are not limited by labels. We are fluid, changing, more than any title can hold. When we forget this, we imprison ourselves in expectations, always performing, never resting. Picture a woman at a family gathering. She is known as the responsible one. Everyone depends on her organizing meals, solving conflicts, carrying burdens. She smiles, she serves, but inside she is exhausted. She longs for someone to care for her, but her role does not allow it. If she drops the mask, she fears rejection. How many live this way, trapped in the identity others assign, unable to breathe freely? The modern world reinforces these masks. Social media invites us to display curated versions of ourselves, successful, attractive, happy. We become actors on a digital stage, judged by likes and comments. But beneath the polished performance, many feel unseen. They whisper to themselves, if only they knew the real me. The more we polish the mask, the more invisible we feel. The Buddha compared this to a man wearing armor. At first, the armor feels protective, keeping us safe from criticism. But over time, it grows heavy. We carry it everywhere, even when there is no battle. We forget what it feels like to walk lightly, to feel the sun on our skin. The path of practice invites us to set down the armor, to discover that true safety lies not in performance, but in authenticity. Consider a simple experiment. Spend one day without titles. When someone asks who you are, instead of saying, I am a teacher, or I am an engineer, say, I am a human being. Notice the reaction. Some may laugh, some may look confused, but something shifts inside. The walls of identity soften. You remember that before you were any role, you were simply alive, breathing, present. That is your truest self. There is a story of a monk who was praised by villagers as a great teacher. One day, a man insulted him harshly, calling him a fraud. The monk simply smiled. His students asked, Master, how could you stay calm? The monk replied, Because I do not see myself as teacher or fraud. I am simply awareness. Praise and blame are only passing clouds. This story reveals the secret. When we cling to labels, we suffer with every change of opinion. But when we rest in awareness beyond labels, we are free. Now think of the workplace. A young employee hides her creative ideas, fearing judgment from older colleagues. A man works overtime, not out of passion, but to prove he is valuable. A woman stays silent in meetings, afraid her role does not allow boldness. Each is trapped by labels, junior, subordinate, outsider. Yet each holds a human heart longing to express itself. When labels fall away, creativity and connection flourish. But how do we live without roles in a society that demands them? The answer is balance. We do not abandon responsibilities, but we remember they are roles, not identities. A parent must still care for children, but does not have to be perfect. A manager must still guide a team, but can admit uncertainty. A teacher must still instruct, but can also learn. When we hold roles lightly, they become tools, not prisons. The Buddha's teaching on emptiness supports this. Emptiness does not mean nothingness. It means freedom from fixed identity. Like water taking the shape of any vessel, we can flow through roles without being trapped. Today a parent, tomorrow a friend, the next day a student of life. Always changing, never fixed. This is the beauty of impermanence applied to identity. It frees us to be fully human. Imagine a man at a party. Normally, he introduces himself as an executive. Tonight, he simply says, I enjoy cooking and hiking. The conversation shifts. Instead of power, it is about shared humanity. For once, he feels relaxed, not performing. This small shift opens doors. By stepping out of the costume, he discovers connection. The first step to freedom from labels is awareness. Notice the masks you wear. Which ones feel heavy? Which ones no longer fit? The second step is honesty. Begin with small acts of authenticity, admitting tiredness, sharing real feelings, allowing imperfection. The third step is compassion for yourself and others. Everyone is wearing masks, often out of fear. When you see this, judgment softens. You realize we are all trying to protect our tender hearts. Slowly, the courage grows to live more authentically. And with authenticity comes connection. People trust those who are real. Relationships deepen when masks fall. The pressure of performance eases when we remember we are not our roles. So tonight, when you remove your work clothes, when you wash your face, when you look in the mirror, ask yourself, who am I without the labels? If you listen closely, you may hear the quiet answer. I am more than any role. I am life itself, vast and free. Imagine a young man scrolling through his social media feed late at night. Each post he sees is a performance. One friend shows off a vacation, another announces a promotion, another shares a flawless photo edited to perfection. He compares himself silently, feeling smaller with each swipe. His own life seems less worthy, his own role less impressive. He thinks, who am I compared to them? What he does not realize is that those same friends may be scrolling through his page, asking the same question. Everyone is comparing, everyone is performing, and everyone is secretly tired. This is the loneliness of identity in the digital age. The Buddha taught that clinging to identity is like trying to hold smoke. It cannot be grasped. Labels are convenient for communication, but dangerous when mistaken for truth. I am successful. I am a failure. I am worthy. I am unworthy. These are thoughts, not reality. They rise and fall like clouds. Yet when we cling to them, we suffer with every change. Praise makes us fly too high. Blame makes us fall too low. We are tossed around like leaves in the wind of others' opinions. There is a story of a monk who is praised by one villager as holy, then insulted by another as foolish. He responded to both with the same calm smile. His student asked, "Master, why are you not moved?" The monk replied, "If someone hands you a gift and you do not take it, who does it belong to?" In the same way, if we refuse to take the labels offered good or bad, they do not touch us. This is freedom from identity. But how can this be lived in ordinary life, in workplaces, families, and friendships? The answer lies not in denying roles, but in holding them lightly. Imagine a mother who feels overwhelmed because she believes she must always be strong. One evening, she admits to her children, "I am tired. I need your help." Instead of losing respect, she gains connection. By letting go of the perfect mother mask, she allows authenticity and love to flow. Or think of a manager who admits to his team, "I don't have all the answers." Far from weakening his leadership, it deepens trust. Vulnerability invites real connection, while masks create distance. The Buddha's insight into impermanence also applies to identity. Who you were 10 years ago is not who you are today. Who you are today will not be who you are tomorrow. Roles change. Student becomes teacher, child becomes parent, worker becomes retired. If we cling tightly to one role, we resist the natural flow of life. But if we accept change, we can step gracefully from role to role, always learning, always growing, never imprisoned. Consider a man who built his identity around his career. When he retired, he felt empty, as if he had vanished. Depression followed, because he believed his worth ended with his job. Contrast this with another retiree who saw work as just one chapter. When that chapter ended, he embraced new roles: gardener, mentor, volunteer, grandfather. He flowed with change instead of resisting. His life remained rich because his identity was not fixed. This is the essence of anatta, no fixed self. We are not defined forever by titles or failures. We are like a river, always moving, always renewing. To identify with one drop is to miss the whole current. When we see this, pressure eases. We do not have to prove ourselves endlessly. We only have to live authentically in this moment. Yet many resist because identity feels safe. To step outside the mask feels like standing naked in public. Fear arises. If I am not my role, who am I? The Buddha's answer is simple but profound. You are awareness itself, vast and open, not limited by any single story. Like the sky, which holds clouds without being defined by them, awareness holds roles without being bound by them. You can be parent, worker, friend, teacher, but you are not only those things. You are the spaciousness that allows them to exist. This understanding is not only philosophical, it is practical. Imagine facing criticism at work. If your identity is perfect employee, criticism shatters you. But if your identity is not fixed, you can listen calmly, learn, and grow. Or imagine failing at a project. If your identity is success, failure destroys your self-worth. But if you see yourself as fluid, failure becomes just another experience in the river of life. This flexibility is true strength. The practice of mindfulness helps loosen the grip of identity. Each time you notice a label in your mind, I am not good enough, I am better than others, I am stuck, pause, breathe, ask, is this thought absolutely true? Or is it just passing through? Most of the time, it is just a passing cloud. By noticing it without clinging, you discover the sky-like nature of awareness. Compassion also plays a role. When we see that others are also trapped in roles, our judgment softens. The angry boss may be wearing the mask of authority, but suffering inside. The distant friend may be hiding behind the mask of independence, but longing for care. Everyone wears masks to protect themselves. When we see this, we respond with kindness, not criticism. And kindness, in turn, frees us from our own masks. So, the invitation of this chapter is simple. Experiment with living more authentically. Share a real feeling instead of a polished one. Remove a mask, even briefly. Allow yourself to be seen as human, not perfect. Notice the relief in your own heart and the deeper connection it creates with others. And when you look in the mirror at the end of the day, after the roles have fallen away, remember, you are not the labels. You are not the mask. You are the awareness behind it all, free, vast, uncheckable dot. Imagine a man who has read every book on health and fitness. He can explain the science of nutrition, list the benefits of exercise, and describe the perfect workout routine. Yet he rarely moves his body. His bookshelf is full, but his life is unchanged. Knowledge without practice becomes decoration, not transformation. In the same way, modern life often mistakes information for wisdom. The internet overflows with advice: how to be successful, how to be happy, how to meditate, how to love. People scroll through endless articles, podcasts, and videos, nodding along, feeling a momentary spark of insight. But when the phone is put down, old habits return. Stress, anger, fear, loneliness, none of them dissolve by theory alone. We become, as the Buddha warned, like someone who counts another's treasure but never uses it. This is the trap of knowledge. We feel progress because we have learned new words, memorized new concepts, but deep inside, nothing changes. A Buddha called such people walking encyclopedias of Dharma. They can recite teachings, quote scriptures, explain philosophy, but when anger arises, they are still consumed. When suffering comes, they are still lost. It is like staring at a map without ever walking the path. The Buddha used a famous image, a finger pointing at the moon. The teachings are the finger. Reality is the moon. If we stare at the finger, analyze its length, shape, and angle, we miss the moon completely. The finger exists only to direct attention, not to replace the seeing. Yet many cling to the finger, debating endlessly, while the moon waits silently in the sky. Think of a person who attends endless workshops on mindfulness, collects certificates, and posts photos online to prove their growth. Yet when faced with a simple conflict at home, they shout in anger. The teachings remain concepts, not lived truths. Contrast this with someone who has never read a single book, but pauses each day to breathe, to listen, to be present. Their peace is real, even without words. This shows us, wisdom is not what we know, but how we lived out in modern culture. Status often comes from knowledge. Degrees, titles, expertise, all are celebrated. And indeed, knowledge is useful. But when knowledge becomes identity, it blocks true learning. A person who thinks, "I already know," stops seeing freshly. The Buddha warned against this arrogance. Even he, after awakening, continued to practice mindfulness each day. Awakening was not a certificate, but a way of being. There is a story of a monk who visited the Buddha, boasting of his learning. He said, "I have memorized many scriptures." The Buddha replied, "You may carry a heavy load of books on your back, but if you do not drink the water of wisdom, you will still die of thirst." This story reminds us, information is only useful if it nourishes. Consider ordinary life. A person knows that anger is harmful, yet still lashes out. A person knows that stress damages health, yet still lives frantically. A person knows that kindness brings joy, yet still chooses selfishness. Knowledge alone cannot change behavior. What changes us is practice moment by moment, breath by breath. The Buddha emphasized direct experience. He invited followers not to believe blindly, not even his own words, but to test them in their own life. "Come and see," he said, "not just hear." This is the essence of Buddhism, not theory, but transformation. Meditation is the laboratory, daily life the experiment, peace the result. Think of tasting a mango. You can read books about its sweetness, listen to lectures about its texture, watch videos of people eating it. But until you bite into the fruit, you do not truly know. Spiritual practice is the same. Without direct taste, words remain empty dot. So how do we step out of the trap of knowledge? The first step is humility. Admit that no matter how much we know, reality is always greater. The second step is practice. Choose one teaching, even a simple one, and live it. For example, instead of collecting 20 meditation techniques, just practice mindful breathing each day. The third step is reflection. After practice, ask, what did I notice? How did it change me? Slowly, theory becomes embodied. Modern people often say, I don't have time to practice. But we already practice something every day. We practice stress. We practice distraction. We practice worry. The question is not whether we practice, but what we practice. The Buddha invites us to practice awareness, compassion, patience, kindness. These do not require extra hours. They can be woven into each moment walking, eating, speaking, working. Imagine an office worker who reads about mindfulness but never applies it. Stress continues. Then one day, she decides to try. Before each email, she takes one breath. Before answering the phone, she pauses. Before leaving work, she notices her steps. Slowly, her days feel lighter. Nothing in her schedule changed, only the way she lived each moment. This is wisdom in action. The trap of knowledge is seductive because it feels safe. Reading, listening, learning all keep us busy without requiring change. But the Buddha calls us to courage, to step off the page and into life, to move from knowing to being, to embody truth, not just recite it so tonight. Before bed, instead of reading another article about peace, try sitting quietly for 5 minutes. Feel your breath. Notice your thoughts without chasing them. Rest in awareness. That small act will teach you more than 100 pages ever could. The path is not far away. It begins exactly here, exactly now. Picture a university classroom filled with eager students of philosophy. They debate the meaning of life, argue over theories, and quote great thinkers. Their minds are sharp, their words impressive. Yet when class ends, some rush to the bar to drown loneliness. Others worry endlessly about grades. Others feel insecure despite all their knowledge. The brilliance of thought does not shield them from the rawness of human suffering. Ideas alone cannot quiet the heart. The Buddha knew this well. He lived in a time when countless teachers debated endlessly about truth. Some claimed the world was eternal, others that it would end, some that the soul was fixed, others that it was not. The Buddha listened, but saw that debates brought little relief. People were still angry, fearful, unsatisfied. So he chose a different way, silence. When asked certain abstract questions, he refused to answer. Not because he did not know, but because the answers did not matter for liberation. What mattered was practice, ending greed, hatred, and delusion in this very moment. Think of fire. You can study its chemistry, measure its heat, describe its colors. But if your house is burning, you do not need theory, you need water. In the same way, when the heart is burning with stress, anger, or grief, theories cannot extinguish it. Only direct practice, breathing, letting go, cultivating compassion, can bring relief. This is why meditation is central. Sitting quietly, feeling the breath, noticing thoughts rise and fall. This simple act reveals truths no book can fully explain. You see directly that everything changes. A thought appears, stays briefly, disappears. A feeling comes, grows, fades. In this direct seeing, impermanence is no longer philosophy, but lived reality. You do not need to believe it. You experience it. And once experienced, it changes how you live. Consider anger. You may know intellectually that anger is harmful. You may quote research about stress hormones, or remember the Buddha's teaching that anger burns the one who carries it. But in the moment of fury, knowledge is powerless. Only awareness, cultivated through practice, can stop anger's fire. A mindful breath, a pause before reacting, the simple recognition. This is anger. It will pass. These lived practices save relationships and health. Knowledge without practice cannot. The Buddha compared this to medicine. Hearing about medicine does not heal you. Reading the prescription does not cure you. Even buying the medicine and placing it on your shelf does nothing. Only swallowing it, letting it enter your system, brings healing. In the same way, teachings are medicine, but only when practiced. Otherwise, they remain unused bottles on a shelf. Modern people often confuse talking about spirituality with living it. They join discussions, post quotes online, argue about which teacher is best, but their lives remain restless. The true sign of practice is not in speech, but in transformation. Are you calmer, kinder, more compassionate? If yes, the practice is real. If not, more theory will not help. Silence is another teacher. In silence, the mind reveals itself. Many avoid silence because it exposes restlessness. But within silence lies the direct path to wisdom. The Buddha sat under a tree, not with books, but with silence. And in that silence, he saw deeply. The same is possible for us. Just 5 minutes of silence each day, truly present, teaches more than hours of debate. One story tells of a monk who held up a flower before his students. Most waited for an explanation. Only one smiled. He had understood directly, without words. That moment became the beginning of Zen tradition, a lineage of direct experience beyond language. The flower itself was the teaching, silent, immediate, undeniable dot in modern life. This spirit is rare but needed. We rush to explain, to analyze, to categorize. But some truths are too simple for words. The warmth of holding a child, the stillness of watching the sunset, the quiet joy of breathing after a long day, these moments cannot be captured in theory. They must be lived. So how do we free ourselves from the trap of knowledge? Begin by shifting from collecting to practicing. Instead of reading 10 books on mindfulness, choose one simple practice and live it. Instead of memorizing teachings on compassion, perform one act of kindness daily. Instead of debating impermanence, notice how your breath changes, how your thoughts shift, how life flows. Each small act of direct experience cuts through the illusion that theory is enough. Another step is to embrace beginner's mind. Even if you have studied for years, approach each moment as if new. This keeps the heart humble and open. A child marvels at a butterfly without needing a theory of biology. In the same way, we can marvel at existence itself, fresh in each breath. Beginner's mind protects us from the arrogance of "I already know." Finally, integrate practice into daily life. When washing dishes, feel the water, the movements, the presence. When walking, notice each step. When listening, truly listen without planning your reply. These simple acts are more transformative than abstract theories. Life itself becomes the classroom, and each moment the lesson. Imagine again the man who read endlessly about peace but never practiced. One day he decides to try. He sits for 10 minutes each morning, focusing on his breath. At first, the mind races, but over weeks, something changes. He becomes less reactive, more patient, more grateful. His family notices. His coworkers notice. He himself feels lighter. He realizes that 10 minutes of practice did more for his peace than years of reading. This is the heart of Buddhism. Direct seeing, direct living. Words can guide, but only experience liberates. Knowledge may decorate the mind, but practice transforms the heart. So tonight, instead of reaching for another book, try reaching for your own breath. Instead of searching for another teaching, try practicing the one you already know. The path is not in words. It is in life itself. A man lies awake at 3 in the morning. The room is dark, but his mind is loud. He replays mistakes from years ago, words he should not have said, chances he missed, relationships he broke. Then his thoughts jump forward. Bills to pay, health to worry about, children's futures, the possibility of losing his job. His body lies in bed, but his mind is dragged back and forth, chained to yesterday and tomorrow. Sleep never comes. When the alarm finally rings, he is already exhausted. This scene is familiar to millions. Regret and anxiety haunt the mind like twin shadows. One whispers, "If only the past were different." The other whispers, "What if the future goes wrong?" Together, they rob us of the only moment that is real, the present. We live in a house with 2 rooms, one filled with regret, one filled with fear. Yet the door to the present room, the one where peace lives, remains closed. The Buddha described this burden as carrying 2 sacks on the back. One sack is full of stones from the past, mistakes, guilt, memories that weigh us down. The other sack is full of stones from the future, fears, worries, endless what-ifs. With each step, the weight grows heavier. No wonder life feels tiring. Yet we rarely ask, must I carry these sacks? What if I set them down, even for a moment? Modern culture makes this burden heavier. Advertising constantly reminds us of what we could have done better, what we must prepare for, what we might lose. News cycles keep us anxious about tomorrow, while nostalgia and comparison keep us stuck in yesterday. The result is a mind that is everywhere except here. We eat but do not taste. We walk but do not notice. We breathe but do not feel. We are alive, yet absent from our own lives. But the Buddha offered a radical invitation: face impermanence directly, without fear. Instead of denying change, see it clearly. Everything, our bodies, our possessions, our relationships, even our thoughts, is in constant motion. To resist this truth is to suffer. To accept it is to find freedom. Consider a flower. When it blooms, we admire its beauty. When it withers, we mourn. But the withering is not a mistake. It is part of the flower's nature. In the same way, our lives bloom and wither. Each moment arises and passes. To cling to permanence is to fight reality itself. But to embrace impermanence is to discover appreciation. The flower is precious because it fades. Life is meaningful because it changes. There is a story of a king who asked his advisors for a phrase that would comfort him in both joy and sorrow. They wrote, "This too shall pass." In times of pain, it reminded him that suffering was not forever. In times of joy, it reminded him to cherish the moment. This phrase captures the heart of impermanence. Nothing stays. Everything flows. And within that flow lies both challenge and liberation. Regret softens when we see impermanence. The past cannot be changed, but it has already passed. To replay it endlessly is to reopen wounds that are already gone. Instead, the Buddha invited us to learn the lesson, then release the story. Like a traveler who stumbles on the road, we can rise, dust ourselves off, and continue walking. The stumble is over. Only the step ahead matters. Anxiety also softens when we see impermanence. The future has not arrived. Worrying about it is like carrying an umbrella every day for storms that may never come. This does not mean we ignore planning or responsibility. It means we distinguish between preparation and obsession. We prepare wisely, then release what is beyond control. The seed of anxiety is always trying to control what cannot be controlled. The medicine is trust in impermanence, knowing that whatever comes, it too will pass. Imagine watching waves on the shore. Some are large, some small, some calm, some fierce. But none lasts forever. They rise, break, and return to the ocean. Thoughts and emotions are like waves. Regret rises, then falls. Anxiety rises, then falls. If we identify with every wave, we are thrown endlessly. But if we rest as the ocean itself vast, steady, we see that waves are only temporary patterns. Awareness, like the ocean, remains. The Buddha compared life to borrowing a house. We live in it for a time, care for it, but eventually we must return the keys. Our body, our possessions, even our relationships, none truly belong to us. When we see this clearly, fear softens. Instead of clinging desperately, we live with gratitude. Each day becomes a gift, not a guarantee. Consider a father walking his daughter to school. He knows she will grow, change, eventually leave home. Instead of fearing this, he cherishes each step, each conversation, each laugh. Impermanence teaches him not to cling, but to love more deeply now. Fear turns into appreciation. Anxiety turns into presence. Of course, facing impermanence is not easy. We fear death, loss, endings. But denial does not prevent them. It only increases suffering. The Buddha encouraged contemplation of impermanence, not to depress us, but to free us. When we accept that everything changes, we stop wasting energy resisting. We begin to live fully in each fleeting moment. So the next time regret arises, pause and ask, is this moment still here, or has it already passed? If it has passed, release it. The next time anxiety arises, pause and ask, is this future real right now, or only imagination? If it is only imagination, release it. Return to the breath, the body, the present. This is the doorway to peace. Imagine standing at a train station, watching trains arrive and depart. Some are noisy and crowded, others nearly empty, some fast, some slow. You cannot stop them, and you cannot ride them all. You can only choose which one to step onto and which to let pass. Our thoughts and emotions are like these trains. Regret is one train, anxiety another, joy another, anger another. Most people, without awareness, climb onto every train that arrives. They are carried away by regret, then by worry, then by fear. But mindfulness teaches us another way: to stand on the platform and watch, to see the trains come and go, but to choose carefully which ones we ride. This is how we work with impermanence in daily life. Regret arrives, notice it. Anxiety arrives, notice it. But you do not have to board. You can let them pass. This simple practice begins to free the heart. The Buddha compared the mind to a guest house. Each morning, new visitors arrive, some joyful, some sorrowful, some heavy, some light. Our job is not to slam the door or cling to one guest forever. Our job is to greet them, offer presents, then let them go. Impermanence means no guest stays forever. The deepest suffering comes not from the guests, but from our refusal to let them leave. Consider grief. When someone we love dies, the pain is real. To deny impermanence is to deny love itself. Yet when we see clearly, we realize love does not vanish with the body. It continues in memory, in influence, in the ways we were shaped. Impermanence takes the form away, but not the meaning. To understand this is to soften grief, not by erasing love, but by honoring it more deeply. In another story, a disciple asked the Buddha how to prepare for death. The Buddha replied, by remembering death each day. At first, this sounds grim, but the practice of remembering impermanence is not meant to darken life. It is meant to brighten it. When we know time is short, every moment becomes precious. We do not waste words on anger. We do not postpone kindness. We do not take life for granted. Impermanence sharpens our love for life. Imagine eating a ripe peach. If you believed peaches would last forever, you might not value the sweetness. But knowing it will soon be gone, you savor each bite. Life is the same. Its beauty lies in its fleeting nature. Anxiety arises when we fight this truth. Peace arises when we accept it. This acceptance also dissolves perfectionism. Many suffer from the idea that they must get everything right: the perfect career, the perfect family, the perfect self. But impermanence shows us that perfection is impossible, because life is always shifting. Instead of chasing perfection, we can embrace growth. Mistakes become teachers, not life sentences. Failures become steps, not dead ends. Take the example of a young man who regrets dropping out of college. For years, he punishes himself with the story, "I ruined my future." But when he sees impermanence, he realizes the story itself is not fixed. He can learn, change, rebuild. Life is not one permanent verdict. It is a flowing river, and he can always step back into the current. This realization transforms regret into motivation, despair into possibility. Anxiety about the future is also softened by impermanence. The mind says, what if everything falls apart? But impermanence reminds us, things are already falling apart and coming together every moment. Nothing lasts, but nothing is fixed either. The future is open, not predetermined. Fear imagines disaster, but impermanence reveals possibility. Just as winter turns to spring, dark times give way to light. Nothing is permanent, not sorrow, not struggle, not fear. The Buddha often used the image of breath. Each inhalation arises, stays briefly, then dissolves. Each exhalation does the same. The body is kept alive by this endless cycle of arising and passing. To cling to the inhale, refusing to exhale, is to suffocate. To cling to the exhale, refusing to inhale, is to die. Life is sustained only by flow. When we resist impermanence, we suffocate the spirit. When we flow with it, we breathe freely. Practice helps us embody this truth. Sit quietly and notice the breath. Notice thoughts as they rise and fade. Notice sensations in the body shifting moment by moment. Impermanence becomes not an idea, but an experience. Over time, fear lessens. When a painful thought comes, you remember, this too will pass. When joy comes, you remember, this too will pass, so let me savor it fully. Impermanence no longer feels threatening. It feels like the rhythm of life itself. Compassion also grows from this wisdom. When we see that everyone is struggling with regret and anxiety, we soften. The harsh boss who lashes out may be tormented by his own fears of the future. The friend who withdraws may be haunted by her past mistakes. Seeing this, we respond not with judgment, but with kindness. And kindness, in turn, eases our own fear. Compassion is the bridge that carries us from isolation into connection, from anxiety into trust. Now imagine the man who once lay awake at 3 a.m, crushed by regret and fear. Slowly, he begins to practice. Each night, when regret arises, he breathes and whispers, "That moment is gone, I release it." Each time anxiety whispers, "What if?" he replies, "The future has not arrived. I will meet it when it does." He still has worries, still remembers mistakes, but they no longer rule him. Over time, his nights grow calmer, his days lighter. He has not erased impermanence. He has befriended it. This is the heart of the Buddha's wisdom. Peace is not found in fighting impermanence, but in flowing with it. Regret teaches us lessons. Anxiety teaches us preparation, but neither must imprison us. The past is gone. The future is unborn. Only the present is alive. To live fully here is to be free. So tonight, when you lie down to sleep, try this. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe in and say silently, "This breath is new." Breathe out and say, "This moment is enough." Let regret go with the exhale. Let anxiety rest with the inhale. Drift into sleep, knowing that impermanence is not your enemy. It is your teacher, guiding you to presence, gratitude, and peace. We have walked a long path together. From the alarm clock mornings filled with stress, to the endless chase of money and security, to the deep loneliness of a crowded world, to the masks of identity we carry, to the trap of knowledge without practice, and finally to the fear of impermanence itself. Each chapter has revealed a different face of human suffering, but also a doorway toward peace. And now, as we come to the end, let us look back not with heaviness, but with gratitude for what has been uncovered. Stress showed us how we live in a culture of speed, rushing without rest, drowning in distractions. But we learned that peace is not something to chase. It is as close as a single breath, available here and now. When we pause, when we breathe, when we let the muddy water settle, clarity returns. Stress does not disappear, but it no longer rules us. We discover that we can step off the treadmill of busyness, even for a moment, and taste freedom. Money revealed the endless chase for security, the fear of never having enough. But we saw that true wealth is not in numbers, but in contentment. The open hand gives and receives. The closed fist holds tightly, but starves the heart. By practicing generosity, even in small ways, we break free from fear. Contentment is not poverty, it is freedom. It allows us to enjoy what we have, instead of being enslaved by what we lack. Loneliness showed us the painful paradox of modern life, surrounded by people, yet feeling invisible. But here too, the Buddha pointed the way. Compassion, presence, loving kindness, these dissolve the illusion of separation. When we look into another's eyes and truly see them, loneliness fades. When we practice metta, extending love even silently, walls soften. Belonging is not found in numbers of friends, but in moments of presence. Identity revealed the heavy masks we wear: doctor, manager, parent, achiever. These roles can empower, but they can also imprison. The Buddha's teaching of anatta, no fixed self, showed us that we are not our labels. We are more fluid, more spacious, more alive than any role can contain. When we hold roles lightly, we gain freedom to be authentic. To be real is to be free. Knowledge revealed the trap of theory without practice. Words and concepts can inspire, but without living them, they remain empty. The Buddha compared teachings to a raft, useful to cross the river, but not something to carry forever. The real transformation comes from practice: sitting, breathing, noticing, loving. To taste the mango is greater than reading 1,000 descriptions. Direct experience liberates where words cannot. And finally, impermanence showed us the root of so much fear: regret for the past, anxiety for the future, terror of change and death. But impermanence, when faced with courage, becomes our greatest teacher. It shows us that clinging brings suffering, while acceptance brings freedom. It teaches us to cherish what we love, to release what is gone, and to trust that even pain will pass. Impermanence is not a curse. It is the rhythm of life, the reason each moment is precious. All of these threads weave together into one truth: suffering is real, but it is not final. The Buddha called this the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering. There is a cause of suffering: craving, clinging, ignorance. There is the possibility of ending suffering, and there is a path that leads there. We have not spoken of this path in technical detail, but we have lived its spirit: mindfulness, compassion, wisdom, and letting go. These are not distant ideals. They are practices available now in ordinary life. So where do we go from here? Not to some distant mountaintop, not to a perfect future, but to this breath, this step, this moment. Every time you pause before reacting, you are walking the path. Every time you share kindness, you are walking the path. Every time you notice impermanence without fear, you are walking the path. There is no need to wait. Freedom is not tomorrow. It is the way we meet today. But perhaps you still wonder, can ordinary people truly live this? The Buddha himself was once an ordinary man, suffering, searching. His awakening did not make him superhuman. It revealed what is already true for all of us, that peace is not outside, but within. Many have walked this path before: monks, mothers, workers, teachers, children. Each discovered that small steps matter. No one is too busy, too broken, too ordinary. The path belongs to all. Imagine your life as a garden. Stress, fear, greed, and regret are weeds. They grow naturally, but they are not the whole garden. Mindfulness is the act of tending the soil, compassion the water, wisdom the sunlight. Each small act of care allows flowers of peace to bloom. Some days weeds return, but you keep tending. Slowly, the garden changes. This is how transformation happens, not overnight, but through steady care, moment by moment. So tonight, as you finish listening, I invite you to pause. Place your hand on your heart. Feel your breath. Remember, you are not your stress, not your bank account, not your loneliness, not your mask, not your knowledge, not your fears. You are the awareness that sees all of these, vast and unshakable. Beneath the noise of life, there is a stillness that has always been with you. Touch it now, even for a moment. That stillness is home. And tomorrow, when the alarm rings, when the bills arrive, when the traffic slows, when loneliness whispers, when roles press heavily, when anxiety rises, remember this: you do not need to carry every burden. You can pause. You can breathe. You can choose compassion. You can let go. The world may not change overnight, but your way of meeting it can. And in that shift, freedom begins. The journey does not end here. This is only the beginning. Seeds have been planted in your mind, in your heart. Tend them gently. Let them grow. Some days will be hard, some days light, but every day is a chance to practice. And each practice, no matter how small, brings you closer to the truth. Peace is possible, here and now. So walk forward with hope. Walk forward with courage. Walk forward knowing you are not alone. Countless others walk this path too. And each step you take, each breath you breathe with awareness, adds light to the world. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. And may you remember always that you already carry within you the freedom you seek.